You ready to do this, Stu?
I am ready.
Bunch of Chewy.
Welcome, super friends, to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot is Stu Jones.
Hey there, howdy.
We're two nerds that just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode number 88, the Snowman episode. We release every Thursday morning. You can find us on our website, fortofnerd.com. We have links to iTunes, Google Music, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, and everywhere podcasts are available. Stop by and relax a while. If you like what you're hearing, hit that subscribe button and get us automatically each and every week in your ear holes. Stu, did the snowman thing just throw you?
It really did. I was just going to ask.
It's a little poker term, man, because 8s look like snowmen. You got a pair of snowmen. You got a pair of 8s. How about that? 88.
Okay, well, my basic training unit in the Army were the Death Dealers, and that's a poker hand, so...
There you go.
That's cool.
So, Stu, what is up? It's been another week. We are back in the Fortress of Nerditude. Everything's looking good in here, man. All the furniture's where it belongs. It's been cleaned up since our last go-round.
That's funny. I cleaned my house. That's weird.
That's what I'm saying, man.
It's I can't believe it's been a week. I really can't.
And what a week it's been.
Oh boy, boy, are my arms tired. Wrong joke, right punchline.
Been flying a lot, huh?
Yeah, well, yeah, and then I'm getting ready to go first thing in the morning. I'll be there till late Thursday night. Worked all through the weekend, somehow managed to clean my house, which is not a thing I do, but I did.
Do you feel better?
Yes.
See?
Shh. I don't want to hear that positive mumbo-jumbo. I did get to hang out with Mo. Did you know that there's like Jensen's Nature Park just like really close to where we live?
I did know that, and it's funny because I put on Facebook that, hey, I'm looking for some hiking ideas because I want to go hiking, and then I saw like 25 minutes earlier you posted you were there, and I was like, I wonder if he's still there. Maybe we'll go over, and then my wife was like, I'm going to take a nap, and I was like, and there we go.
Yeah, no, you should have. I mean, it's really just a small little park, but there's a big fishing pond where fishing is legit legal and everything, and there's a million freaking ducks, but lots of little trails, like just through the weeds and all that kind of stuff, and it was fun. We actually had fun in just such a small little place. It's really nice there, and it's no swings and playground stuff, but
right.
Morgana definitely enjoyed it, and there are lots of seagulls that pretend to be ducks, so keep an eye out for that.
How hot was it? Because my concern was that I wanted to try to get up into the mountains a little bit where it was.
It wasn't
cooler.
hot at all.
Oh, okay.
No, it was actually pretty cool. Morgana only screamed for about 3 seconds after getting back into the hot black leather seats. So
sure.
Usually it's about a 7 or 8 second ordeal.
Yeah, well, that's bad. I mean, she cut it down by half, 50% reduction in screaming.
Yeah, I figure that's a pretty cool day.
Hashtag dad win.
And then, further adventures in the life of Stu dating. Still.
Dun 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 dun. He's a love machine. Ah, da 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 da. Hey baby. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I went to dinner. That's exciting.
Nice. Anywhere like fancy or like just kind of casual?
Just a Thai restaurant down by the Walmart. I'm keeping it classy.
By the Walmart. Is that Thai Rodi?
Thai Jasmine.
Oh, Thai Jasmine. Okay.
Yep. So
I'm sure our super friends are like,
boring week, man.
I love Thai Jasmine.
Hey, if you get a chance to go there, free plug. They're actually really, really freaking good.
My only problem with Thai food is that I'm allergic to peanuts, and like everything has peanuts.
You would die.
Cooked in peanuts. Yeah, pretty much.
You would just die.
I get ham fried rice and sticky rice with mango, and that's pretty much all I eat there.
Yeah, you don't get that at Thai places anyway. So
Sometimes.
The real authentic Thai restaurants.
Well, the authentic Thai restaurants, you do get mango and sticky rice because
yes,
that's
you
authentic
do,
dessert.
but not ham and fried rice.
No, not the ham fried rice. No.
No, sorry. Anyway, that's my boring week. What do you got?
Well, I saw 2 movies this weekend. I went out and saw late Friday night Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. And you'd seen this, right?
No.
Okay, I saw it, and it's... Okay, my quick review is this. If you're looking for fun and watching dinosaurs and you're going to eat popcorn, it's a good movie for that. If you're looking for a deep plot, something that's got some like substance or meaning that you're going to be thinking about afterwards,
or you're keto and you don't eat popcorn,
yeah, this isn't the movie for you. It feels like they just kind of stole some of the plots from like the second Jurassic Park movie, and
which was kind of intentional, actually.
Yeah, but I mean, it felt really thin on the plot. But it's a fun movie, and it's got cool graphics, and CGI monsters are all amazing. And then Saturday night, Brita and I got a babysitter, and we went out and saw Mission Impossible Fallout.
You guys actually went on a date together?
We did. We went on a date together. I bought her popcorn and everything. No, we didn't have Walgreens.
Ugh, doesn't count then.
We thought about it, but,
Didn't want to keep that old magic alive.
No, I mean, Best Buy is really where the love truly blossomed on our anniversary. But
oh, jeez.
No, so we saw Mission Impossible Fallout, and let me tell you, I have been really happy with like Rogue Nation and with Ghost Protocol. Like, I feel like the Mission Impossible franchise has really kind of taken a shift for the better.
Sure.
And I felt like this movie was right with those. I mean, it's probably maybe one of the better Mission Impossible movies. I mean, I really enjoyed it, and I was thinking about it the next day, and I may go see it again.
You'll move past it?
Maybe we'll talk about that in a bit. But
yeah, I've kind of been boycotting movies lately, not intentionally, just no time, man, no time.
Sure. Okay, and here's the other thing. I started a new video game. I have no business starting a new video game because still need to get back to God of War. I've got Lotro that I want to try. I've been playing Overwatch and some Fortnite. But Ed Placencia on Married to the Games podcast last week was talking about this game that he's finally tried called No Man's Sky, and it's been out for a while.
Right, I've got that.
It's been around. Do you have it on PS4 or PC?
I have it on both, actually.
Okay. So I got it on PS4 because it was on sale for like $25, something like that. And the way he described it was like, you wake up on an alien planet and you're in a little spacesuit and you have to like start mining for materials and like resource management, and you try to get a ship, and then you're trying to just like keep enough supplies to like keep flying. And when he said that, I immediately thought of Firefly, because that's kind of the whole idea with Firefly is like they're living out there kind of on the edge. They're trying to take jobs just to kind of keep going so that they can live their life the way they want to and keep the Firefly, keep serenity in the air. And they're just kind of always on that kind of ragged edge. And I was like, okay, I get it. It's not going to be a Firefly game, but It kind of has that feel of like, I barely have enough, thruster fuel to take off and go somewhere, and then I got to land again. That's one way to
play.
Yeah, and I got to farm again, and so I've only got maybe about 5-6 hours into this. I've got to the first space station and then back down to the planet to get a signal, and now I'm trying to collect more copper to build an FTL drive. And I was like, yes, I'm going to build an FTL drive. This is going to get awesome. I'm going to be able to go to other systems. And anyway, so I've really been enjoying it. Like, it's been on my mind. I picked it up, I think, Friday, and I've played it a little bit every night. So I've got about 6 hours into it or so, maybe 5 hours, right. 6 hours. And I'm kind of liking it. I'm digging it. It's kind of a chill, relaxed game. Like, it's not super intense. I can sit down and just like do some mining, do some exploring, some scanning, process ore, whatever, and then build something and then go to the next place and, find more stuff to do and try to figure out what's going on. There is a story. I don't really know what's going on yet because I'm not that far into it, but
I have about 150 hours on No Man's Sky so far, and I still have no idea what the story's about. I've restarted it like So No Man's Sky has gotten a lot of crap. When they released the game, it didn't even have many of the features that their screenshots on Steam had. They got into a lot of trouble. Which actually, by itself, that kind of propagated one of the recent changes that Steam has made regarding their policies on what you can put on your preview slides. And it's gotten a lot of hate. I actually originally liked it. I did consider it my meditation game. Just sit down, do some random stuff, and know it's inconsequential, but you're just playing. And then they've come out with some major updates to the game that have provided some extremely effective overhauls to some systems of the game. They added some base building stuff. This last one, they added multiplayer. Right. Though you always had multiplayer, the chances of running into somebody else in that galaxy were pretty slim. And they even had 2 players as an experiment just to see if it was lack of coincidence that no one would run into each other. They had 2 people actually take hundreds of hours of combined time to get to the same place in the game, and they had side-by-side screens showing and they're in the same place, and they still didn't see each other, lending people to believe that the multiplayer facilities didn't actually exist. But I've really liked the game. I do believe that they deserve all the flack that they've gotten, but I think there's still an enjoyable game in there. My problem is just that it really starts to fleh after a while. Sure. Because there is, even that storyline is really not enough to be gripping and compelling to pull you through. It's just there to guide you. So, I don't know. I've actually been thinking about giving it a dive again, though, here. Maybe to check out the multiplayer stuff. So maybe I'll see you in No Man's Sky.
Yeah, man, I'm playing on PS4, and I got this because that big update happened, and I heard a lot of people saying, hey, this has really fixed a lot of things. It's making it a much more enjoyable experience. It's worth going back to. And I figured for $25 after a big upgrade, and they've made some big changes and really improved on it, I felt okay, I'll jump in and take a look and see what it's about. And plus, Ed Placencia's review of it really was enough to pique my interest, and I'm having a good time. It's one of those things where it's I want to be able to play more on it, but
have you learned any alien words yet?
Yes, I've learned maybe 6 alien words so far.
That's my favorite little subplot in the game, is trying to learn a language to actually be able to speak to somebody else, because even now, it's mostly because I've restarted. It takes a long time to get all those words down, but I don't know, for some weird reason, I find that fun.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what I've been up to. I mean, everyone else is doing good. Like I said, I downloaded an app someone recommended on Facebook called All Trails.
I recently got that.
Yeah, I want to start getting the boys out and getting us out and maybe doing some hiking, taking advantage. I mean, as you guys know here in the Fortress, I've been losing weight, and I've been starting to lift some weights, and I'm trying to get healthier and get more exercise and just keep more active. And so I was maybe start exploring around, some of this area that I live, and, do some trails and hike up, Adams Canyon and go see the falls with the boys, or, I don't know, do something. Because Steve Madura called me a little bit ago and said, hey, I did a family vacation. We were in Colorado. We hiked Pikes Peak. He's I got to the top and I started thinking about you and thinking we need to do something next year. Just the 2 of us will go somewhere and climb some big mountain and just, get a view from the top of the world, basically. And I was yeah, that sounds great. And so just trying to, do more. So I downloaded that app, and we're going to start looking around and, exploring, I guess, maybe. A little No Man's Sky in real life.
Adding a little bit of nerd tech into the hiking experience.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to have some sort of GPS something or another with me, because
we'll lose you.
Easily. Easily. You won't be able to see the shine from outer space off my Chrome Dome. But anyway, that's what's been going on with me. Everything else is totally doing well, and we're fine and happy and whatnot. So
Sweet.
what do we say? Let's get to the Bothan killing.
That's my line. I kill the Bothans.
We'll go ahead and kill him.
Kill the Bothans!
I always have to let you know, many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
All right, Stu, we're into Rebel Intelligence. What do you have this week?
Oh, well, it's funny that you had mentioned the Mission Impossible. So
Yep.
I've seen some previews for that. That is definitely on my need to see while still in theater list. We'll see how well that holds. But I mean, it's one thing I love about Mission Impossible is there's always a touch of campiness. It kind of pokes fun at itself a little bit, and it overdoes the whole secret mission stuff. But for the most part, it's, some really serious action. I have been rather critical of Tom Cruise for quite a while, but I think he does Mission Impossible really well. There are a couple exceptions to that, but that's a role he kind of fits in. I know he tends to do a lot of his own stunts. It used to be all of them, not all anymore, but he's getting to be an old guy. So he's 56 now. So basically, I've got this, article about Mission Impossible Fallout. One of the things that makes a point about it is that he's now actually 5 years older than Wilford Brimley was when they made Cocoon.
Really? Now, but Wilford Brimley perpetually looks 90. So
He did, but I mean, just perspective that Tom Cruise is, he's making a believable action star. It's not like an old guy still trying to do something like, Kirk Douglas or Michael Douglas or any of those guys. So anyway, so Fallout is doing pretty freaking well.
Wow.
Compared to recent, you had mentioned the Ghost one.
Ghost Protocol, Rogue
right?
Nation. Yeah,
and then Rogue Nation. So it's doing better than either of those. It's actually took in top for last week, $61 million. Not anything to really sneeze at. It's a pretty big production, something like $320 million. But given, this is the first week, I think it's going to be doing well.
Yeah.
It's also giving Paramount some life. Paramount has been struggling in recent years. Only a few flagship movies that are even not really doing so well, like the Star Trek movies and Transformer movies.
Right.
So it's kind of going by the wayside, and they need some really big hits to pull them back up. Mission Impossible Fallout doing a pretty good job of it. It's also gotten an A grade in CinemaScore exit polls, which is the highest that any Mission Impossible movie has gotten. It's just really, really doing well. It's a sequel even, and people, notoriously don't like sequels as much.
It's the sixth movie in a franchise.
Right. Which, I mean, as much as I love Transformers, the sixth movie in the Transformers series is not its best.
We're up to 6 movies in Transformers already?
It's like 5 now, and Bumblebee will be the 6th. So
Gotcha.
I'm still going to see it, but it's not reviving the franchise by any means. So
No. Yeah, this Mission Impossible was good. I think everything you're saying feels like it's kind of was my experience. Like if they would have asked me my grade, I would have said it was an A movie. Yep. Like it's got great action. The story's really good. It's got some good twists and turns, some good drama. Like I feel that seems about accurate to me.
Does Tom Cruise die?
No.
Ugh, that would be the only.
Ethan Hunt never dies.
Ethan Hunt. Well, that would have made it a little bit better for me just to see Tom Cruise die, just to feel validated. But I'll probably go see it anyway.
Yeah, here's the problem, right? This is... You got an aging star. I mean, he's 56 and he looks like he's still in his 30s.
He's old!
But, eventually he's not going to be able to do these movies anymore. It kind of becomes the James Bond, right? Where Sean Connery's like, I'm in my 70s. I'll make another one, pussy galore. It just doesn't, you're like, no, come on, man. So, we'll see how long it goes, but I think once he's done, I think that franchise just buckles and it's done.
Oh yeah, I mean there are some where you can kind of rotate through actors and whatnot, but this is tied to him as the character. It's an iconic experience. So, but I mean, I don't know. Even in James Bond, they've done a pretty good job of making most of the actors iconic to the role as well. Daniel Craig definitely pulled it off. There have been a couple that haven't, and we won't talk about them.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, so I said I saw Mission Impossible Fallout, and I saw the 2 movies. And here's my news article for you. Here's the story of a service called MoviePass that was promised unlimited movies, all of it for $10. It couldn't last. Yes, that's right. MoviePass is having problems.
I'm sorry.
And
did you actually write that?
Heck yes, I did.
That's my Rebel Intelligence article of the week.
Nice.
Spencer is now writing jingles.
So MoviePass had a big issue last Thursday, and then last Thursday night, and then kind of rolled over into Friday. I went to look on my MoviePass to see about getting a ticket for Mission Impossible for the weekend, and it said, "Hey, you can't get tickets to Mission Impossible." And then a message came up and says, "Hey, we're having problems right now with our credit card service. You can still use e-ticketing if you have that," which we don't have in this state at all. And so I was like, let me look and see what's going on. So a news article came out, big news on Friday. Basically, MoviePass had a massive outage because it ran out of money and could not pay the credit card processors to process all the payments. And so they'd missed paying one of their vendors, which is a big no-no when you're reliant on a credit card. So basically what happened is Helios and Matheson Analytics, the company that, the parent company that owns MoviePass, basically had to go and get a $5 million cash loan to pay the credit card processors, but it was taken out with something like crazy, like 20% interest, and it was taken out only to be like a 4 or 5 day loan, just like a temporary loan, so they could basically get through this weekend, and then August 1st would hit in the middle of this week, and then they would start getting in, money again from the monthly subscriptions, and hopefully that should be enough to kind of keep going for a little bit. But here's the thing. When I looked, no Mission Impossible. It was the middle of the day Friday, and I started looking for matinees. I'm like, okay, let's just take a look. Every single movie was charging surge pricing. Every single movie. Movies at about 3 and 4 weeks were charging surge pricing to matinees. Now that's a big problem for me because I look at this and I say, okay, I get that I'm getting a good deal at $10 a month to see one movie a day. I get that. But now it's like, oh, now if you really want to go see a movie, you got to tack on an extra $3.50 to $5 in a surge price. And so I started looking around to see who else was having this problem. And I saw a picture on Reddit of someone sitting in an empty theater in the middle of the day saying, I paid surge pricing for this. And it's just them in an empty theater. So it's not really the surge pricing isn't, hey, we're doing this because it's busy. No, they're doing it because they need to make money. So obviously they struggle on Friday. They can't get the app up and running. They get this, this loan for $5 million, which is going to add another $1.2 million in interest over like a 5-day period. Their stock plummeted from like $14 down to like 9 cents, but they did some sort of like reverse stock split to try to like kind of bump it up. So like the stock was still like worth like $6 somehow. Just trying to make it, because what was going to happen is if it fell too far,
oh boy,
the company was going to be delisted from the NASDAQ. And of course, if that happens, like then no one's going to put money there. So that was over the weekend. Then apparently today there was another issue where the service started acting up again, and basically users were trying to look up screenings and finding basically all theaters were showing that there was no screenings available. Not that they were sold out, not that there were surge prices, but that just there was like no screenings available, like the movies didn't exist. And someone took a screenshot in New York City and Manhattan, and only 2 theaters showed up to have any screenings, and of course, surge pricing.
Well, Manhattan's out in the boonies anyway. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
surprised they have any theaters.
It's in the sticks. So here's the thing. This happened. I became aware of it Friday when I was looking, and I called Brita and I said, here's the deal. This thing, they don't have enough cash to even pay their credit card vendors. They're going to close shop. This is bad. This is real bad. And now it's like continuing on after the weekend. I canceled MoviePass. I canceled MoviePass on Friday. Enough. And then I signed up for AMC's A-List.
Yeah.
And I used AMC's A-List twice this weekend. Once to go see Jurassic World 2 and once to see Mission Impossible. And the cool thing was I picked up an extra ticket on the app for Brita, so we sat next to each other. I ordered our concessions and they brought them right to our seats.
What?
On this app. I just went in, I showed them my little barcode right on the app. I don't have to be within 100 yards of the thing to check in. I can check in right now for my 3rd movie this week for like 2 days from now if I want to, and then just go show up.
Well, sure. I mean, it's more capable of doing that since it knows the theater you're going to. You're ordering the tickets. You've got your seats. There's no, paying for your gas with this credit card kind of system.
Right.
So, I mean, it's more controlled, but yeah. So you think it's worth it for AMC so far? I mean, you saw the 2 movies. What do you think?
Right, I think it's worth it because here our prices are like $12 for an AMC movie. So if it's $20 a month and you get to see 3 movies a week, which translates roughly into 12 movies you could see. And it's any
movies, right?
And it's any movies. It's so 3D movies,
right.
IMAX movies, whatever. Anytime. There's no surge pricing. There's no whatever. Yeah, I mean, I saw 2 movies over the weekend, so I've gotten $24 worth of value for $20 already. Plus, here's the other thing. They have their loyalty reward program. So like if you purchase it, you get points for that. Like, when you purchase extra tickets or concessions, you get points. So we've already earned $10 back. So like the next time we go, we can use basically like $10 towards concessions for, the extra ticket we purchased and for the concessions we purchased, and the actual A-List subscription goes towards that as well. So we get a little bit of perks, a little bit of kickback, and there's a what I'm going to call basically the priority line, the HOV line for concessions. So if you don't order them,
it's the VIP line.
It's the VIP line. You basically walk up there and you just go right to the front of the line, and you can skip all those schmucks waiting at the last second. You'd be like, I'm a AMC Stubbs A-List member.
Yeah, until everybody becomes a subscriber and does that, and then you've got like then it becomes quicker to actually go through the regular line.
Maybe, or you just order the food on the app and have it delivered to your seat, which is...
do you have to tip them?
Nope. Or, I mean, I'm not. So, anyway, it worked out really well. I was pretty happy with it. We'll probably, we'll definitely we're going to be using it. I mean, we were using our MoviePass as well. I mean, I'd say I got my money's worth of MoviePass, but it just became too much of an inconvenience to actually use it now. And so I stopped using it, and so I just canceled it.
So can we officially, I mean, I think we're probably really late to this party, but can we give it the official Fortress of Nerditude MoviePass is dead?
I would say MoviePass is dead. I think the company is going to exist a little while longer. Just because they're going to try to float and do what they can, but they're not going to hit that subscriber base they said they needed to hit that number. People are going to start leaving in droves now that they're having all sorts of problems with their service, and they're not letting you go see new movies, and they're charging you extra for every single movie you want to go see.
Yeah. I jumped ship a couple weeks ago. I don't even miss it, obviously. I'm not even watching movies, but I'm not paying $10 a month for crap either.
Yeah, I'm not going to pay $10 for something that I can't use. Now, I'm now paying double that, but I've already got this month's worth. And I did that literally with, I signed up on the 26th or 27th of July, and I've already got that month's worth. So be it.
I mean, the funny thing is I would have paid that $20 a month to be able to see maybe even one 3D movie with Movie Pass, and that's what a lot of people were demanding. So if you can see 3 movies a week and they can all be 3D, and Movie Pass is charging you surge pricing and blah, 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 you're already getting a better value than what you're getting with Movie Pass, especially if you like the premium stuff.
Yep. And for me, the ability to choose like an extra ticket, like a companion ticket at the same time, like that's huge because my wife and I can go and we're only really paying for one ticket because the other one's going to be covered by my A-list subscription.
There you go.
Anyway.
All right. Fortress of Nerditude has moved on to AMC. I think I'll probably, as soon as, things really got to quiet down for me for work. But as soon as they do, I got to go see Mission Impossible.
Yeah, for sure.
At AMC. With my new AMC subscription service.
Stubbs A-List. Are you an A-List member?
Dun, dun, dun. No, I just want to have people bring me stuff to my seat.
Dude, it's so cool. I ordered just a water bottle the first time, and you like put in like the little name and they have your ticket. They know what seat you're sitting in. They just come up, they're like, Spencer? I'm like, yes. And they're like, here you go. And they handed me the water. I was like, thanks. And then when we got the popcorn and Brita's Diet Coke, and my water, they brought up like a bag with all that in there. And like, Spencer? I'm like, yep. They're like, here you go. Here's your popcorn. Here's your Diet Coke. Here's the water. I was like, thank you.
Now, is that while the movie's going on, though?
So you actually, that's the thing is you actually set the time for when they give it to you. And so I told them to like deliver it right at like 9:30 when the movie started, which was actually when the preview started.
Sure.
So, but you can order anything that they have there on their list. So food, candy, like nuts, popcorn, anything.
Huh.
So it's kind of cool.
Well, I'm down for all that laziness. I am ready to make that a part of my life.
Convenience.
Sorry.
Is the word. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway. All right. So that sounds like Movie Pass is dead. Long live AMC. Let's go for it. So we're talking about the future of cinema. Let's dial it back to the past.
Ooh.
A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah, see, we're going back to the past, see?
The future. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away in the future. Because spaceships, laser beams, pew pew. George Lucas was the man with this vision for this crappy little independent film that nobody wanted to believe in called Star Wars. As we all know, George Lucas has lost some credibility with his fans for revisioning some stuff and for making some crazy
and for
kooky
the crap
things.
Prequels. Me's a Jar Jar Binks. Me's a going home.
And the Force is science. Midichlorians, baby.
Yeah.
And then he even wanted to take like the 7, 8, and 9 and make that like about the midichlorian homeworld stuff and all kinds of crazy stuff. So he should probably stay as far away from Star Wars as possible.
Right.
Except he hasn't been.
Oh.
But so he's been brought on to consult a couple times, apparently, like with Solo.
Okay.
There was a scene in Solo that he apparently was called on to because, I wonder what the heck his vision could possibly mean for that. He's not writing, he's not directing, he's consulting. And a certain little J.J. Abrams apparently has brought George Lucas on to consult with some Episode 9 script.
Okay, so I hear you say this. I don't actually hate that if he's not writing it.
Yeah, right.
Because his
or
writing...
reshooting it.
Yeah, his writing the prequels was, just miserable. But the guy does have some pretty cool story ideas. And obviously he crafted and created this whole universe. So like bringing him in, especially if it's like how to tie back thematically or with certain characters and like try to like find a way to kind of like tap into like some of the emotions or some of the, backstory, like that could be, I could see them using him for that. But if they're letting him write anything,
no, buyer
beware.
Right. No, he's just, he's helping to polish up some scripts, contribute a couple ideas, but not a castable staff such as director, producer, or anything like that. So I'm really hopeful that it stays that way. I have this great fear that Episode 9 might do well enough. And George Lucas has been doing a lot of Star Wars convention stuff lately as well. So he's kind of weaseling his way back in there. I fear him being asked to helm some stuff in the future. especially given that Disney is a little leery of the lack of success of Solo and Last Jedi that they were expecting.
Right.
I mean, they're looking for creative ideas. They're going to want to get themselves out of the unfavor of the fans. So maybe
Why not go back to the well that started it all?
yeah. And you know what? To be honest, as I'm thinking about this, maybe if he had something, as long as he stays away from like the main story stuff, the main saga stuff, I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad. I really don't want version 32 of A New Hope. The all-new extra special director's special cut with popcorn minus popcorn plus diet soda brought to your table edition, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll see. But he's in the mix, so I don't know. I wonder if we'll be able to spot. I don't think I could go back and spot where he may have even helped with Solo. So obviously, it's in the background. But Lucas is into Star Wars again.
Interesting. Okay. Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed. We'll keep our breath held, and we'll hope that he doesn't pull the ears off of Gundark.
It'll be A New Hope.
Yes.
I wonder if his consultation would have made Last Jedi any better, though.
I don't know. That's a good question. I think he would have hated what they did with Luke. Just saying.
Well, he is a person, and he probably has ideas about that,
Yes.
even though he didn't consult.
I'll give him a call. I've got his personal phone number. I'll ask him what he thought of the treatment of his character, Luke Skywalker, and I'm sure we'll agree. We normally do about all things. Except hot dog condiments for some reason. Don't ask. Okay, so here's what I've got for you.
Pickles?
Ooh, no. Wrong. So wrong.
Relish.
Although, relish is good.
What?
Yeah, I know.
That's where relish comes from. When a mommy and a daddy pickle love each other very much.
Wow, now I've got bad images in my head. Moving on. So we've talked about this a lot. The Disney-Fox merger, right? Disney's, going to give Fox $71.3 billion to acquire the Fox Entertainment side. Well, it went before shareholders, which obviously it had to happen. And the decision apparently only took about 10 minutes. 99% of the shareholders co-signed, with only a single person objecting, saying that Disney was spending too much.
They're spending way too much.
Well, you got to remember, originally it was a $54 billion offer, and then
Right.
it got bumped up to $71.3. Thanks, Brian Robertson, Comcast. But they backed out, and so now it is official. I mean, there's going to be a couple like governmental things that'll have to pass, but like from everything that it looks like that's going to happen. So as of, just a couple days ago, it's official. Disney and Fox have approved the merger. We're getting the X-Men. We're getting the Fantastic Four. They're all coming back to Marvel Studios. They're all going to be in-house under the Disney brand. Let me ask you a question, because I saw this a couple times after this was announced. I saw people going onto Twitter saying that they were angry about this. And
What?
the reasons ranged from, I think Disney is too greedy, and I think that Disney has too much entertainment, they own too much intellectual property, or people who are just like, hey, I think this is, that this is just, something that shouldn't happen because now they're going to own Fox News. And I was like, okay, well, you're obviously not reading because the news division is not part of the sale. It's the Fox Entertainment side. I guess
are you implying people aren't reading everything on the internet?
That's exactly what I'm implying. But let me ask you, do you understand why people would actually be angry or upset that Fox Entertainment is being bought by Disney?
Because one of their friends or one of their trusted clickbait sites told them to be.
Okay.
From a fan perspective, there is nothing we lose in this as fans. Fox is not exactly one of the big shareholders with movies and intellectual property in that regard. They've made some pretty phenomenal flubs with, franchises that they've gotten some control over.
Right.
This all just brings it back into alignment with the people that do have the creative vision related to the properties that they're with. Despite the fact that Disney aren't the people that ever created the X-Men, they have the people in-house that are focused on that and the comic properties. And These are the people that really care about it and that are going to ensure that it keeps with the standards and the quality that are expected. And we get access to those characters to be brought back into Marvel.
Yeah.
Where do we lose here?
I don't know, but people are like, Disney's too greedy. It's like, well, wait a minute.
They're a business.
What's wrong with a business doing what businesses do? And what's wrong with the American dream of trying to, accumulate more wealth and accumulate more comic book characters? I don't get it.
The idea really comes from the idea of monopoly, control of any given industry or enterprise. This is the realm of imagination.
Yeah.
This is entertainment. How can you even define a monopoly on entertainment? As big as Disney is, the whole entire rest of the world is a competing interest against Disney. Someone wants to put out something better. Someone wants to put out something better quality. You don't have to have the production value of Disney to do it. Other non-Disney enterprises are still quite alive and well. There's no unfair influence that Disney has on the industry. They're just doing it better with more money, more resources behind them.
I see. I agree with you. So maybe it's just people wanting to be angry about something and wanting to rant and make it look like they care so that other people will, agree with them, and clickbait sites, like you said. I looked at that and I was like, I don't get how a fan is going to say, you know what, this really hurts me. The only people I can see this hurting, legitimately hurting, is people who work for Fox Entertainment, where there's going to be, maybe, duplication of jobs. And there's going to be some people who are going to lose their jobs. That I understand. That I can understand if you're in that industry and your job is now on the line because your company was just bought by another.
And it's going to be so difficult to find new work having Fox on your resume.
Right. But I'm just saying, like, there will be people that will struggle and will hurt some, that it won't be maybe an easy transition. I could see them, but it's like Joe Schmo living in Nebraska who's just taking to Twitter to complain that, hey, man, the Fantastic Four is going to be owned by Disney. They're going to ruin them. It's like, was Fox really doing them a favor?
So how many movie studio film crew people did not find future work because Fantastic Four flopped, or Spider-Man didn't continue the next iteration of it? Yeah. I mean, that's already part of the business inherent in that. You work for a project, you hope you get picked up for the next project. If your current project doesn't do well, you don't get the next one. That actually has a higher chance of these people finding jobs on future projects, I think, under the new Disney label than it did with Fox. So even then, I still see this as being an overall some growth. And I mean, people do lose their jobs with acquisitions and stuff. It does happen. But that's the nature of capitalistic business. So
right.
I think they'll be all right, though.
I think most of the fans are going to be fine. I don't know. I kept seeing this negativity. I was like,
people want to be mad at everything.
This is just stupid negativity for the stupid sake. I don't know. Anyway, it just bugs me. I'm like, why? Yeah. Anyway, what else do you got for me?
Well, so I'm going to take it back to the Star Wars here.
Take it back.
A little bit more Star Wars news. Speaking of, film crews and actors and stuff that were afraid of maybe losing their jobs, it turns out that Carrie Fisher still has a job in the next Star Wars movie.
Okay.
Yeah. So they've actually released the Episode 9 cast, which Billy Mother Peepin Williams will definitely reprise his role as Lando.
You old space pirate.
Yep. Mark Hamill is going to be in Episode 9.
That's not a shock to me. That's not like I knew that was going to happen.
He's going to be a Force ghost.
Yep. Absolutely.
We've got, the other major players, Daisy Ridley, Adam Driver, John Boyega, Yogi Bear.
John Boyega.
Yogi Bear.
Yabba dabba doo.
Hey there, bro. Hey there, boo. Let's go get the Rangers picnic basket.
Let's go get a picnic basket.
New actors, Naomi Ackie, no idea. Richard E. Grant, no idea. Kerry Russell. Sounds familiar.
Felicity.
There you go. So Leia Organa, however, will still be played by Carrie Fisher. Kind of knew that she was going to have a role in this. I actually feared they were going to pull out the old CG Rogue One kind of mechanic there.
Right. Yeah.
But instead, they're actually going to use unused footage from episode 7 that was shot.
Okay.
So they're bringing her back. They're not being all tricksy about it. I think they did marvelously well with using unused footage in Rogue One. They've got the skills to kind of pull this into the storyline. I'm sure they wrote or rewrote some parts around those just to make them fit. I think that's pretty much as honorable a tribute as they could make to Carrie Fisher in this regard. Love that she's still going to be a part of that. John Williams will be back. Da-da-da.
Nice.
Yeah. I kind of wonder if now that episode 9 is going to be the end of the Skywalker saga, if that would be the time for him to step away. Because, John Williams has basically become a character in Star Wars. Yeah. And if we're looking at new trilogies and whatnot, how much continuity would we lose with the score if he were to die or retire in between like the next trilogy?
Look at Rogue One, look at Solo. They took the Star Wars theme and they had other, composers to come in and write their own music and use musical cues from that. And so I think they could still do that, but you're right. I think it'd be a good way for John Williams to kind of wrap it up and be like, he's got other projects. We've talked about that. He's got other things he's doing. He does not need Star Wars to, go on for the next 50 years of his life.
Yep.
Assuming, he can live another 50. I don't know.
Well, midichlorians.
Dang you.
He can live forever.
That is cool that we're getting, a lot of returning characters and that it's interesting that they're going to use Carrie Fisher in that way. I hope that they do it. I hope that they do it well enough that you have a satisfying end to her story.
Well, there's a big expectation on episode 9, even if it's not really understood by most fans or openly thought about. Episode 9 is the capstone of the entire Skywalker saga.
Yeah.
This has to be worthy of all the previous movies, including some prequels. It has to really give homage to everything that's come before it and be able to end it in such a satisfying way. Because if it doesn't, this is the fizzle to the end of the Star Wars saga that will forever sully in the minds of fans.
Right.
So you've got to do everything big here. You've got to make everything matter. Carrie Fisher definitely belongs in there. John Williams definitely needs to lead the audio, the audio elements of it. Billy D. Williams coming back. I would say my only regret here, maybe, even though I really didn't like the character so much, is that we're not going to see Han Solo as a part of this.
Right. The other thing I was just thinking about while you're talking about this, you're saying the capstone of the Skywalker saga, is that what are we doing with all these new characters? Kylo Ren, Finn, Rey, Poe. It's like we brought them in to kind of give new life and, kind of have maybe, let's say, a younger version of those kind of character types that the original trilogy had. But are they going to carry on into their own new franchise? Or is this just like we introduce these new characters to kind of, tell different stories, but yet still kind of weave into the fabric that we already have established with the Skywalkers? I don't know. I don't know what their plans are going forward, but
we'll see. I honestly think that they're trying to, other than a Star Wars story, where we get the one-offs, I think they're really trying to bring in entirely new characters, heroes and villains alike, and take everything for Star Wars in a new direction with a new trilogy. I would be surprised if we see any of these characters again, aside from a brief cameo or something. I know Daisy Ridley wants nothing to do with Star Wars once Episode 9 is done.
Wow.
So, but it could really kind of keep her in a rail that she doesn't necessarily want to be in.
Yeah.
I did see Murder on the Orient Express, which, while it wasn't a great movie, it was interesting to see her in a different role and really kind of as a whole different person. So I could see her wanting to. She did 3 episodes of Star Wars. That's huge enough as it is.
time, she may just want to move on to other stuff. I get that. I still say, I hope that new trilogy is Knights of the Old Republic, go back 4,000 years in time, and just set a story in a familiar world, but with all new characters. You can bring in all new actors.
Oh, no, you got to have HK-47.
Well, yes. But I'm saying, like, as far as, like, the physical actors, yes. Anyway.
Hands up, meat bags.
Yeah. Okay, here's something that I'm excited for, and I saw this story, and it made me a little sad for only a brief second, and then I became very happy. This last weekend was the Television Critics Association big press event, and Netflix was there, and they were talking about Stranger Things. And I love me some Stranger Things. And Cindy Holland, who's the Netflix VP of Original Content, basically said the third season of Stranger Things is going to be set in 1985, but it won't be premiering until next summer of 2019. And the reason is the Duffer Brothers want it to be better. The Duffer Brothers obviously are the creators of it. And she's basically said it's a handcrafted show. She says Duffer Brothers and Sean Levy are worked really hard, and they understand the stakes are high. They want to deliver something bigger and better than what they did last year, and so they really want to take time to get it right. I think it's going to be a fantastic season. It's going to be worth the wait. Now, obviously, that's going to disappoint a lot of people who are hoping that maybe like this summer or like sometime in the fall, we would get the third season, because obviously last Halloween time we got season 2.
Right.
But coming from someone who's said this repeatedly with some book series that I'm waiting on authors to finish, I would rather it be a little bit longer of a time between seasons if it meant that the writers and the directors, the creative forces behind the show feel that they're giving us a much better version of what it could be. Because I'd rather have a quality product that just stands out and is amazing versus something that's just kind of like progressively losing a little bit and getting a little bit worse because we're trying to mass produce it and get it out quick. And so I'm okay with this. I'm okay to wait until next summer. There's a lot of good stuff coming down the pipeline as far as movies and TV. And I'd rather have a excellent season of Stranger Things versus a mediocre version of Stranger Things season 3.
Well, here's the thing. We are now consuming television content in a whole new method.
Yep.
Whole new model, whole new business model. The rules have entirely changed. We are not tied to network television seasons and advertising sprees. And so if we're going to benefit from this, and if we're going to herald all of this as the new age of entertainment, then we need to stop thinking in terms of network television. Not everything comes around like clockwork at, the yearly intervals. Otherwise, we would get all these shows just dumping in the fall, and then we'd have no real new television content throughout the year.
Right.
So it's not metered, and it's not even metered by an anniversary of a year anymore. We see all these Marvel shows. It's when they produce the content, get it all done. They have to do an entire season of it all at once. It's not like the traditional production model even, where they're going to do it in sprints and have a few episodes at a time to be able to release all throughout the year. This is a new model, and really, if we're going to consume it the way that we do now, we need to also allow the creators of this to create it to meet that model, which means it's not tied to any expectation of time. It's to create all the content, however long that takes, get it right, and then we digest it all in a weekend.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Hopefully we come around to that as a society, but who knows? We all expect everything. We want it now, and
I can be patient for good Stranger Things.
Heck yes.
Yeah. Not a problem. And in the meantime, we'll just, have to rewatch season 1 and season 2 and, get our D&D game up and going and get our fill of D&D that way.
You were supposed to have some information about that.
I do have some information. I've got, let's see, 3 people besides myself and you, and I've got another 2 people kind of in the wings I'm waiting to get schedules on, so.
How many people are we looking at having here?
I'm hoping to have 4 to 5 people.
Players?
4 to 5 players, and then myself as DM.
Yeah, 4 is good, 5 is okay, more than that, and it starts getting to derail.
Right. So but we're very close here.
All right. Promises have been made.
Promises have been made. Promises will be kept.
Well, one more article about Star Wars. Oh, no, sorry. Star Trek. Sorry. So, yeah, now I kind of lost my show notes on it. No! Okay.
From Star Wars to Star Trek and everything in between.
Yeah, so we know that there's this little franchise, something about Lord of the Rings. Maybe you've heard of it?
Small. It has to do with like a ring or something, right?
Well, small because hobbits.
Yes.
So yeah, Amazon's doing the Lord of the Rings. We knew that was coming. They've hired a couple creators from the upcoming Star Trek 4, still yet untitled. So this is work we haven't seen yet.
Okay.
They've also worked on The Jungle Cruise, which was The Rock's movie that I have not seen.
Yeah, or probably won't.
I won't even movie past that on the old system. But anyway, so J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay, they are helming the upcoming Lord of the Rings television show. It's not exactly clear whether they're writing or directing or producing or whatever they're doing, but they're deeply involved with it. We know it's coming around, not really quite sure what they're doing. We still don't even really know several variables. Like, we know that the show has free license to use materials from the films, but
right.
We don't know quite what that actually means. Basically, that with the writing of how that sounds, it sounds to me like they could theoretically carve up the Lord of the Rings movies into like 45-minute chunks and then just rebroadcast them as the show. I know they're not going to do that, but that's as open as it sounds like they have, license to do. So still so many questions left unanswered, but we're getting more of a semblance. I think the one thing I like about this is the more names we get to this, the more official, the more real it becomes. And we know that people are doing things. We don't know what they're doing, but they are doing things, dang it. And those things are going to churn out something, and we're going to be there, love it or hate it. It's Tolkien. We have to watch. We're obligated.
So I just wonder if, I'm assuming that this came out during the Television Critics Association kind of big weekend that the Amazon talked about this. I'm just wondering if this is like, hey, we're just wanting to remind everyone that we've got the Lord of the Rings thing, and we're just kind of like making a
It's
little
in our
token
pocket.
Announcement. Yeah, just like, hey, fellas.
Like a ring.
Right over here, and a little tap to the, the old pocket region.
And then they're going to put it on and then disappear.
Yeah, because it doesn't sound like there's a lot of information there. Just a hint, a teaser, but, I'm okay with it. Like I said, I'm excited for anything Lord of the Rings, anything that's going to be good Lord of the Rings. So, let's hope. Here's the last thing I have. This also comes from the Television Critics Association. Were you ever a big fan of Mad Men, Stu? Did you ever watch Mad Men?
No.
Okay. It was one of those shows for me, like, I'd heard about it and everyone talked about it, and it was one of those kind of big things. Like, it's a water cooler show, right? You'd hear people talking about it at work the next day, and eventually
I did see a movie.
It.
I did see a movie called Mad Men, but I don't think that's associated with the show.
No, not at all.
Okay.
So eventually I got around to watching like the first 2 or 3 seasons on like DVD, and then I got kind of caught up live, and I ended up watching the show. And it was interesting. It was different, but it definitely was kind of a big pop culture moment. I mean, Mad Men was kind of a big thing. Well, the creator of Mad Men, Matthew Weiner, is returning to TV, and he's coming back with a show called The Romanoffs. It's basically supposed to be like some sort of like anthology series that like is kind of around the globe. It's like 8 different stories about people who believe themselves to be descendants of the Russian royal family. And what's interesting is that he is reusing a lot of actors and actresses that were in his Mad Men series. And now this isn't uncommon for a director or a showrunner to use people over again. Right. I mean, we've seen that, multiple times in a lot of different things. I mean, I would talk about Sean Levy, who wrote The Shield and produced The Shield from like 2002 to 2008, which was like this dirty kind of cop drama. Well, he brought on a writer, Kurt Sutter, somewhere around like maybe the 4th season of that show, and then Kurt Sutter wrote a bunch of episodes, and then Kurt Sutter went on to write and showrun Sons of Anarchy. And then in Sons of Anarchy, he brought back a bunch of actors that had been in the Shield, like just a massive amount, to play different characters at different points. And so he'd worked on one series with all these people, and then he starts his own series and brings back people. So apparently Matthew Weiner's bringing back a whole bunch of people from the Romanoffs, and it was just kind of interesting to me because we don't see we see like a big hit TV show maybe, like Mad Men was. I mean, it was a big moment in pop culture. And then usually like that person like bounces over to film, like the J.J. Abrams thing. Like J.J. Abrams did Alias, and then he did Lost, and then he did, Star Trek movies and then Star Wars movies. And I don't see we're going to think J.J. Abrams is going to jump back to TV.
I think he's doing Broadway next.
Really? That would not surprise me at this point. He's trying to EGOT, right?
And he's creatively putting, little bright LEDs to recreate the lens flare on stage.
Oh, nice. Anyway, I just thought this was kind of interesting. The little teaser trailer is like literally just a whole bunch of people's names in like the Cyrillic and Russian, and then they kind of flip over and turn into English, and then it just says like the Romanovs, and that's it. And so it's just kind of a little teaser, but I'm excited.
So you're a less is more kind of guy.
I enjoyed the teaser. I definitely want to see more before I jump on whether or not I'm going to watch this thing, but it was interesting, we'll say. So.
All right. I'll take your word for that.
You are welcome to
I'll watch this right after some other things that I'll probably never watch.
Right, exactly. Did you have anything else?
No. That's it for me.
That is all that I had as well. Okay, last week, Stu, we had a wonderful conversation. We talked about the Comic-Con trailers, and we said, like, the question of the week was... Sorry, what was that?
Glass,
yes. We asked our super friends...
Glass.
What was the thing that you were most interested in? What was the thing that, you were most excited about as far as the announcements? And we got some answers.
Glass.
So, going over to email, says Peter Christensen, obviously, says, Dear Nerds, says Spencer, we're getting a Sunsetter retractable awning for our new house. Costco sells them. You should take a look. I did. I'm intrigued. I don't know if we're going to go with it, but, maybe. We're talking about this. Is
this a home improvement show now?
Maybe. We're going to get Bob Vila on here.
I'm on.
He says, the most prominent content I have found on Amazon Prime Video is the Indiana Jones movies. It's a helpful backup to our entrenched movie position with Apple and Netflix. For those keeping score, I'm one of the 2 other people that enjoyed Suicide Squad. It was entertaining, even though it wasn't good. So you'll have to tell me how that worked out when you guys were sitting there watching that together. He says, quick trailer reactions. Aquaman looks really dumb. I was pleased at Fantastic Beasts. I'm tired of Johnny Depp as a leading character, but I like the look of him as a villain.
Yeah.
Godzilla King of Monsters looks weird but intriguing, much like the 2014 Godzilla. He says, recent movie reviews. Pacific Rim Uprising looked cool, good characters, but the script felt like it was a rushed second draft, and they took a 2.5-hour movie and compressed it into a choppy hour and 45-minute movie without removing any plot points. A Quiet Place is super tense and creepy. Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again was like a classic 90s sequel in that it had bright spots while failing to capture the magic of the original. Mission Impossible Fallout is the Fast 7 of Mission Impossible movies. Good, but not the best in the series with the insanely intense action sequences. Cheers, Peter. Now, I am okay with everything he said until he brought in the fact that Mission Impossible is like the Fast and the Furious, and that made me furious because...
Well, he's not saying it's like...
I know.
He's not saying it's like the Fast and the Furious, but that...
I know.
There's a later movie that is better than some of the precursors to it, but not the best in the series.
I also think he knows my... we'll say displeasure with the Fast and Furious movies, just, not being...
But they're awesome.
super thick on plot, and he likes to give me a hard time.
They're awesome.
Moving on, Facebook. We've got Caleb Alvers. He says, This Comic-Con was great for video games and movies, and because of this episode, I have to ask, Stu, what's the shade being thrown at superhero movies?
Okay,
Aquaman.
hold on.
Okay.
We're going to interrupt this right here, right now, Mr. Caleb. So first of all, I'm not the only one throwing shade. Second, it's not at all comic book movies. Even Spencer here agreed with my assessment, and Peter Christensen just agreed as well. It's not me, and I'm not picking on comic book movies. I love them. Just need to clear the air. Okay.
You got that out? You got that done? Okay.
I'm good.
for the moment.
I read that. I read that on Facebook, and I was just waiting. I was just waiting.
He says, Aquaman looks like it's going to be pretty good. I think there's a dynamic you're missing from the trailers a bit. Mira, the redhead, is not Princess of Atlantis. She's actually the bodyguard of the Queen sent to retrieve Arthur from the surface world. I know his story seems like a pretty basic hero origin, but there's a lot of depth that I think they can portray in this movie that I personally find really interesting. And I'm not even the biggest DC fan, and besides all that, who would have ever thought that they could make Aquaman cool? He's been the butt of the Justice League jokes for years now, and he's starting to get a little love. My top 3 most anticipated movies of this year have to be Aquaman, Glass, and Shazam in that order. I've already explained why I'm pumped up for Aquaman. I'm excited for Glass solely because of Split. I thought that movie was really well done and very intense with amazing acting from James McAvoy. I also love Samuel L. Jackson and Bruce Willis. To me, I wondered if he's actually seen Unbreakable, maybe? Because Unbreakable is fantastic. And if you like Split...
Well, yeah, but they're very different kinds of movies. And I mean, the acting level of James McAvoy in Split, I will agree, was just through the
off the
freaking
charts.
roof.
Yeah, amazing. He says, lastly, I wanted a Shazam movie for years. The only problem I have about is how they're planning on interpreting the tone of movie into the Justice League somewhere down the line. Also, your comments about this being DC's Spider-Man Homecoming equivalent, that is true to some extent. But Shazam has always been DC's Spider-Man in a way. They're both kids with amazing powers, so it's not beyond the realm of disbelief that a child given powers of a god takes advantage of them or has fun with them too. But it also leaves open for that child to learn and grow up because of those powers. But that doesn't mean they have to be grown-ups. That's just boring. So maybe you can help me understand the shade being thrown at these movies. I know you guys that have talked about superhero fatigue a lot, but I think that seeing how the past few superhero movies that have been released seem to be a lot more than your average hero movie. Though they may be feelings maybe have diminished some because of the higher quality movies we've gotten.
I don't recall any shade about Shazam. I'm excited for Shazam.
Yeah, I think Shazam looks fun. I don't know a lot about it, like I said last week, but I mean, it looks fun. Here's the thing, though. I think with Marvel specifically, we get these movies like, the big Avengers Infinity War, right? It's big, it's heavy, there's lots of, there's lots going on. There's more drama there. They're trying to make it intense. But then we get movies like Ant-Man or Ant-Man and the Wasp that are admittedly a little lighter and have more comedy and a little bit of a respite from all the drama heavy, heavy action sequences. And then we get a movie like Thor Ragnarok, which had a bunch of action sequences, but Thor Ragnarok is decidedly a lot funnier and lighter in tone than the previous iterations of the Thor movies. So I think Marvel's found a good way to kind of balance that out, which helps, I think, with me with kind of the superhero fatigue because everything feels a little different. In the DC world, everything wants to be dark and dying, and it's like Zack Snyder's Murderverse, like I've said before. And
I love the Murderverse.
And Shazam looks like a breath of fresh air, and it looks like it will give an opportunity to maybe change the pacing of that, whole DCEU, and I'm okay with that. Like, I think that's a good thing. But that's just me.
That is just you. I love the Murderverse, but I also love Shazam. So,
well, there you
we'll
go.
See how it goes. No, I'm really excited for Shazam. Like I'd mentioned last week, I did watch the original show. Loved that kind of stuff as a kid. I like the goofiness of it. Calling it goofy doesn't mean that I'm decrying it in any way. I'm more excited for that. I would say my top 3 are Glass, then Shazam, and then about 99,000 others, and then Aquaman.
Can I say Glass, Glass, and Glass is my top 3?
Well, if we're talking repeat viewings, then yes.
AMC Stubbs A-List.
Yeah.
Over on Twitter, Nerdish67 at dspin67 says, I didn't like the Shazam trailer, but we'll see. And he says, the Walking Dead trailer didn't do anything for me. So didn't like Shazam, but that's, that's okay. Once again, he does say, we'll see. So you never know. Maybe his mind will be turned. Maybe it'll be better.
I didn't know there was a Walking Dead trailer.
Yes, there was.
Yay.
Going down to Delvin Cox at Delvin_Cox. It says, Star Wars The Clone Wars returning.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're with you there, Delvin. I mean, we love that idea and that announcement. Patrick Novacell at Nova Beyond says, I'm so excited for the hashtag Shazam movie. I don't know if I'm alone on this, but I like the funny angle this movie is going for, which is vastly different than the current superhero films out there. This movie is going to be a breath of fresh air. Man, it's like Patrick and I worked up our, talking dialogues for this, because that's exactly how I feel.
Or maybe you based your dialogue off of already having read his tweet. You're being influenced by our fans. We're gonna start getting the calls. They're gonna insist that we start doing things, taking the show in a new direction.
Oh man, here we go.
Toughen up, Buttercup.
Right. Paul Calicote at pcalico84 says, all the movie trailers look fantastic, but I'm most excited for The Flash because he's finally getting the Flash ring. It has always been one of my favorite things from the comics. Keep up the nerdy work, else time. Paul Calicote.
This is not the first time in a couple days that I've heard about the Flash ring thing, and I've lapsed in my Flash television enjoyment. I may need to catch up.
We are one season behind, and it's now on Netflix. So
yeah,
we're almost done with Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and so I think that's what we're gonna move back onto next is the Flash, because both my wife and I have enjoyed it.
Where are you watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine again?
Hulu.
That's why I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's on the Hulus, but it is so dang funny. Anyway, thank you, Super Friends, for answering our question of the week. We appreciate the interaction. We love hearing from you guys. As always, every week you can respond at all the normal places. An email, which is fortofnerd@gmail.com. Emails get read on the podcast. That happens regularly. If you respond to us on Facebook, we're on facebook.com/fortofnerd. We read a few of those every week. Of course, we read Twitter, and we're at FortofNerd on Twitter. But here's the thing. If you want a guaranteed way to get on, I guarantee you will get on, you got to give us a phone call. And that's at our number, which is 801-477-7687. You call that number, you leave me a voicemail. We will put it in its entirety, barring, profanities or long rambling rants, on the show.
And here's the deal. If we don't get callers to the voicemail, there might have to be a fake call from Randy Macho King Savage.
Or Mr. Nodalpats may have to call back in again.
Who?
Ooh, you haven't had the pleasure of hearing a Mr. Nodalpats call yet, have you?
No, I haven't, and now I'm scared, and I'm going to go put on a diaper.
Mr. Nodalpats is a loyal listener who was originally from Sweden or Norway, I think Norway, and called in, and then he moved to Jamaica, or no, Costa Rica, I think, and then he placed a call from Costa Rica once as well. He's a world traveler, this Mr. Nodalpats.
Does his accent change based on where he's at?
Not really. He has used a vocoder before to disguise his identity. But
oh boy!
But I'm sure we can get Mr. Nodalpats to call in again sometime soon.
Huh? Interesting.
Anyway, I forgot that Mr. Nodalpats. It's been a while, Mr. Nodalpats. Show up, make your presence known. Stu, we love our super friends, and obviously we just talked about a super friend that you haven't heard from in a while, and I haven't. How can our super friends help us out? Is there a thing they could do this week that would help us?
There is. So first of all, just to settle an argument, we really need the Super Friends, at least one of you, to actually go back through all the episodes that I've been a part of and actually count the number of times that I've thrown shade on comic book movies. and someone else needs to go through and count the number of times that I've given props to superhero movies. We need the data.
I want Caleb to do this. No, I want Caleb to do that.
I feel like his numbers may be inflated. I love you, Caleb, but I'm not the monster you make me out to be.
You say you may need someone who may be a little removed from this debate.
Yes, that's why I can't do it myself.
Gotcha. Okay, Super Friends. Stu's first appearance was episode 63 as a guest host, and then
wow,
it was
back then.
It was about another 5 or 6 episodes before he became the permanent co-host.
So 4.
4
after that, yeah.
I will go back and look at that as well. I thought it was 5 or 6, but
maybe
you may be right. But I know 63 was the when you came on as a guest host.
Got it. So in return for that, what I will do is then count the number of stars that you could leave us on iTunes as a review and a rating to help increase our visibility, to help get our numbers up, get us on some lists. That number is 5. If you could leave us 5-star reviews on the App Exchange, that does help us. It's very beneficial to the podcast, getting our name out there, getting more exposure, gaining more super friends who can then support me when I don't really become a monster about superhero movies. It really helps us out. Please do so. Leave us a comment if you like, but leave the stars and we will eat them all up. We love them.
Nice. Very well done. I don't know how we're going to eat stars, by the way.
I will show you. You cook them in the potbelly cooker.
Ooh. and then you'll eat them?
Yep. Like s'mores.
Nice. So Stu, I told you that I went and saw 2 movies, and I got an AMC this last week, and I've ditched the movie pass. As I was sitting watching the trailers during before Mission Impossible, the trailer for Bumblebee came on again, and I think I've seen this now like 2 or 3 times. And I know you said like you've liked the Transformer movies, and you want to go see Bumblebee.
Yep.
And something I was kind of thinking about is that, you know, the cars in these Transformer movies, like, they're characters, right? They've got a personality. Like, Bumblebee's kind of shy.
They're active characters, yeah.
Right, yeah, active characters. You know, he's shy, he can't talk, and so he uses his music. You've got, you know, characters like Optimus Prime, who kind of like represents the, you know, the noble aspect of humanity, right? And that's kind of like his, you know, he's a protector and he wants to do what's right and justice and, you know, whatnot. But I was kind of thinking about this idea that, you know, we've actually had a lot of movies that have had cars as maybe like a focal point, or, you know, kind of a cool factor, like a kind of a nerdy cool factor, something, you know, that they seem to be almost like a character in and of themselves in a lot of movies. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do know what you're talking about. And it's not just movies. We've seen some in some shows as well. Like one that springs to mind definitely is Knight Rider.
Sure.
You know, you've got Knight Rider. He's got the hyper intelligent AI car. That is a very direct character as well. He's got some speaking parts and things like that. But yeah, I mean, vehicles have a place in nerd culture. The Batmobile, for crying out loud, that is about as iconic a character in Batman as Batman himself. It's evolved through the ages, over the years, since the year 1224, when the noble Vikings,
Adam said to Eve, "Let's get in the Batmobile and get out of the Garden of Eden."
If he had, those parts of the Bible may have been a little more interesting than all the begatting going on. I'm sure it was fun to live there, but hearing about it later, not so much. So, but I mean, cars have a place, I think, that goes back further in nerd culture than nerd culture itself. If we, you know, you hear about certain fantasy characters, they have their noble steeds or their mounts, who are often named themselves. If we look at Gandalf, Shadowfax,
Right.
Probably not, you know, not a huge portion of the books, but worthy of a name, worthy of some description, worthy of some character.
Well, in the book, he's got a history, like the noble
Right.
lineage of the Madras and like all the horses and like the way they raise them. Like, yeah, they spend some time talking about the Shadowfax.
Sorry, did they write books based on the movies?
Yes, that's exactly how it happened.
We even saw like in Lone Ranger had Trigger, or Silver, sorry, played by the horse Trigger. So, these mounts and which then become vehicles, they start to have some importance. You kind of identify with them either as an extension of the character or as a character themselves. We see some cool things done, like even with Star Wars, the land speeder was certainly iconic to that movie. And I know just about everybody I know that had Star Wars toys had a land speeder, kind of like all the other ships, but this was, a ground vehicle that didn't have wheels. And it had some kind of cool, fin up on it. And later we see the prequels, we see Darth Maul. He's got this super cool black stealth speeder, and we see these other speeders, and they're a portion of the movie that kind of has a description in and of itself. So yeah, with that, I know you'd mentioned the Bumblebee trailer, and I kind of wanted to maybe explore some of these other vehicles, where they come from, what they mean to us, what we think about them, and just kind of go through some of that kind of stuff, because I love vehicles. I have some nerd stuff on my Corvette, including a Horde sticker, because for the Horde, and a
Loktar Ogar.
Right. Me am that kind of work.
Yeah.
And then, Corvator license plate. And I mean, sure, it's a nice car, but it's mine. And my personality has nerd all over it. And so that's going to come out in my steed, if you will. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's kick this off. Let's go back to the Batmobile for a moment. Since that is like, you see pictures of, I would say I see as many pictures of the original cast of Batman, Adam West, I can't remember Robin.
Burt Ward,
right. You see as many pictures with the Batmobile as you do without. You see it in different museums. There are replicas in parades all the time. The original Cadillac, super finned, over-the-top black Batmobile is like, you can't see that and not know where it comes from.
Right. I mean, it also helps that the bat symbol is like plastered all over that thing too.
Yeah, but I could look at the back fin of that without the bat symbol and know
what
exactly
Sure.
what that car is.
Sure. I really liked the 1967 Batmobile. But I loved it, I think, because I watched that show a lot of times when I'd visit my grandparents in Indiana when I was a kid, and it was kind of campy, but it was kind of fun. And at the age I was at, I was like, I don't know how they're going to get out of this, trap, because they'd always be like, like a two-parter. I'm like, what's going to happen? They're like, tune in next time, same bat time, same bat channel. I'm like, oh crap. And then we'd leave and we'd go back home for the weekend. I was like, no. I'm like, is he going to escape King Tut? Is he's hanging over that shark pool, slowly being lowered down? But I did love the Batmobile in that when I was a kid. Now I look back on it and it's classic and it's kind of iconic, but it's not my favorite Batmobile. Not by a long shot anymore. But I do like it.
I think that they effectively in the show they hinted at some James Bond type features.
Right.
I mean, nowhere near like a James Bond level car, but it was cool and it had gadgets and it was very batty. But yeah, so not your favorite, not my favorite. Fast forward to 89 Tim Burton era stuff. We start to see the car as a real gadget vehicle that potentially even surpassing James Bond stuff by a mile. And we see some amazing things that it can do with, becoming a submersible, a flying machine.
Yep.
It's military level stuff.
Right. The 89 Batman, the Tim Burton vision of the Batmobile, is actually my favorite version of the Batmobile. I loved the look of it. It looked completely different from the 67 version, but it still felt like a car Batman would be in. It didn't have the logos painted all over it. It was, pretty much black, but it was really long and sleek, and the the thruster in the back, the kind of the jet engine looked really cool. And they actually had, I think it was a screen-used replica of that they put at Six Flags Great America in Northern Illinois when they were opening up the Batman ride there. Like in 1991, I want to say. It was right around when Batman Returns came out. And I've got a picture with me in front of that thing where I think I'm wearing like overalls with one strap up, one strap down, and like a Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure t-shirt underneath it or something. But I got this picture of this Batmobile, and like I remember that feeling I had, because to me, that was the Batmobile. It was the Batmobile I loved, and I was standing right next to it. And I'll never forget that feeling. Like it felt so freaking cool.
Right. So with that, if we want to compare it to the original, we look at the evolution of Batman. Batman himself goes from kind of a colorful costume to then being, the caped crusader that we see in Tim Burton stuff. The same kind of transition happened with the Batmobile. Even though it was black, it did have the logos, it did have the red lining and all that kind of stuff. Same thing happens with the car. It becomes something that matches the new feel of Batman very well, but it's easy to see how it's influenced by the original, and it's not a stretch to say that this is just how the car evolved into the modern day, and it's the same concept, just kind of blown up and modernized, but still very, very cool.
One of the things I did like, and correct me if I'm wrong, like he had the ability to remote call that Batmobile, and I remember, and maybe I'm wrong, but like I remember that seems to me like one of the first times we saw a car being able to be remotely controlled in that kind of a way that it could come to you, which is a technology that actually now exists. My boss has a Tesla, and he can hit a button and like it'll pull out of the parking space, and it uses its cameras and sensors. It'll pull out of its parking space for you and kind of like move towards you, so then you can get in and you don't have to like hit the doors on, hit your doors against other people's cars and stuff. And I think that's so cool, because it was a technology we saw like 1989, 1991. I think it was maybe the second movie we saw that in. And like now that's like a real thing.
I'm just looking at a self-starter, for crying out loud, let alone a self-driving.
Right. But still, I mean, that's my favorite version of the Batmobile. I love that version.
So then let's kick it forward a few more years into the Nolan era Batman stuff.
The Tumbler.
The Tumbler. So Batman himself kind of makes this transition from the detective to the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Nolan's Dark Knight Batman, much grittier kind of concept. Doesn't kill people, but gets pretty close to it. And so we're going to have a new Batmobile. For me, I think the connection to the Tumbler is probably more personal than just like a general overall appreciation for it. But in the Army, I was on armor. I appreciate armored vehicles, and the Tumbler is definitely this behemoth of this off-road vehicle in armor.
Right.
I personally like the Tumbler a lot better, and not just because of the armor, but I think the features were just much more modernized and even taken to the next level of oomph with the military styling. And I love that it was this vehicle that gets knocked around and does some crazy things in 3D beyond just driving around. Like the scene in the tunnel, that blew me away.
So I love the Tumbler as far as just a vehicle in and of itself. But as far as it being like the Batmobile, I don't exactly love it. And a lot of the reasons why you love it, I love it too, but it's more like this is just a cool armored vehicle, not like a Batmobile. To me, they even say in the Batman Begins that this was used for the military, for like jumping over spaces so that they can like help drag bridges and stuff. And basically he just takes that and paints it black.
It's appropriatized technology, which is absolutely a Bruce Wayne thing to do.
Sure, but for me, they're like, I don't know, maybe the emotional connection just wasn't there.
It's not a Cadillac.
No. But it just felt like, it definitely felt more militarized versus, the 89 Batmobile or the Batmobile that was in the animated series, or definitely the 1967 Batmobile. Like I said, I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's a cool vehicle in and of itself, but for me, it doesn't feel like it's the Batmobile. It just feels like it's a vehicle that Batman uses.
See, for me, the opposite was true. So Batmobile's there. You see it in parades, you see it wherever, and oh, hey, yeah, that's pretty cool. That's the Batmobile. The Tumbler was the first Batmobile that I saw for the first time and went, oh, hell yeah. And it just like, oh man, it was tough. And I thought it accentuated that part of Batman, which was bringing out in the Dark Knight with the Nolan movies. I see it matching that personality of Batman pretty strongly. So I do see it as a Batmobile.
Okay.
But, and then just briefly, the Batfleck, Tumbler, basically just kind of a
Tumblr 2.0.
Tumblr 2.0, yeah. Not really much there to talk about. And it didn't get as much attention, I think, as previous Batmobiles did, because there wasn't really much new brought to the table with that, I guess. So
yeah, and they didn't focus on it as much.
Yeah.
I mean, Batman Begins focused on the Tumbler quite a bit.
yes.
And besides like talking about like the backstory, like where it comes from, like you see in Batman Begins and the Dark Knight that there's some like seriously intense stuff that goes on while he's in the Tumbler.
Right.
You don't necessarily get that feel.
It shows up, it does some stuff.
Yeah.
That's about
But
it.
it's not these intense chase scenes or over the rooftops and all that kind of jazz that happened.
I would bet that in the Batman standalone movie coming up that we're definitely going to see some focus on whatever version of the Batmobile we end up with there.
Yeah, I would think so.
So,
But
we'll
who
see.
knows? And it'll be interesting to see, do they continue on with the Tumblr version of the Batmobile? Do they go back to something that's a little more throwback to some of the other things we've seen? Or is it going to be something completely new? Is it going to be like a freaking Ferrari? I don't know. A black Ferrari.
Or a Lamborghini that he just rolls up in super drunk. Oh,
Right, exactly.
We've done that. So yeah. So anyway, that's the Batmobile to me is kind of the best example of a nerdy car in that it is a character in and of itself. It accentuates Batman in this case, but you don't really have Batman without the Batmobile. There's always a place for it in the Batcave. It's always going to show up somewhere. Yeah, that's what I like about the character concept of the nerd vehicle.
Nice. Well, I want to bring up a nerd vehicle that I really like, and I also, once again, have a personal attachment to.
Your car does not count.
No. Ecto-1, the car from the Ghostbusters. So it's a 1959 Cadillac Miller Meteor.
It sure is.
And basically it's a hearse. And
Yes.
in the movie, Ray goes and he finds this hearse and he's like, this could be great. And they show it, they show them, kind of working on it, rebuilding it, like repainting the thing. And then the next scene is like you see him ripping out of the firehouse in this thing, and the music's blaring, and they got lights on the top of this thing all kind of going off, and the klaxons. But the cool thing was, like, in this movie, which Ghostbusters is one of my all-time favorite comedy movies.
For sure.
It's amazing. But the car actually had, like, its own personality to it. It was a way that they stood out based on their car for, like, who they were. So, like, if you saw that coming, you knew who it was. Similar to Batman, when you see the Batmobile roll up into your neighborhood, Batman's freaking getting out of that thing.
Especially if it's a Tumbler.
Right, exactly.
Stands out a lot more. Just saying.
Actually, any of the Batmobiles, you see that thing rolling up, it's like, I wonder who's in there. Oh, John got a new car. No, it's Batman. Same thing with Ecto-1. That thing rolls up, you're like, holy crap, the Ghostbusters are showing up. There's some crazy crap going on in my neighborhood, and I've called
Who are they going to call?
people. Yeah, exactly. So the cool thing is that when they were doing the press tour for Ghostbusters 2, and if you remember, like, the way the Ecto-1 looks in Ghostbusters, and then Ghostbusters 2 is a little bit different. They added some more stuff to it. They gave it some more accoutrements on the top, some more lights, some, tubing, whatever. It actually came through my hometown. They were taking it on a tour, and they were just going through, all these, like, little towns and trying to, ramp up excitement for it. And it stopped at the old Hardee's. in my hometown, and I've got a picture with me and my younger brother and his friend and a friend this girlfriend I had, not like a girlfriend, but a friend that was a girl. It was Nikki and Quincy Tunnel went with us, and we got pictures with the four of us standing in front of Ecto-1.
Nice.
And I'm maybe like 10 at the time. It's right around the same time as the Batmobile incident. But I loved this car. This is one of those cars where, like, I think everyone that's nerdy, at least maybe like us, you have certain cars that you're like, if I had extra disposable income and I could get a car and, like, you know, either just buy it outright or spend money to fix it up, this is one of those cars that, like, I would be like super excited to, like, drive in parades and, like, flip on the sirens and go blaring through the neighborhood, especially at Halloween time.
Yeah.
I mean, how could you not?
I would even have some ghosts. I would, like, if I found, like, kids dressed up as ghosts, I'd have them, like, kind of tag along with the car.
I'd have proton packs in the back, so when you open up, you can slide that rack out and you actually have proton packs.
Oh, there you go, buddy.
I mean, you'd have to. But anyway, Ecto-1, I love that. I think it's got a great place in movie cinema history, and it's super nerdy. I mean, you take a hearse and you turn it into a vehicle for busting ghosts. Gotta love it. Gotta love it.
So with that, the funny thing is the Ecto-1 is probably the only nerd car that I can think of that I can actually hear. Like, all, you know, the Batmobile, we talked about KITT, all these other cars, I can actually hear the sound of the Ecto-1 when I think about it. That
Yep.
So,
yep,
no, that's pretty
absolutely
awesome. That is definitely, you see that and you know exactly where it's from, what it's doing.
Right.
Pretty sweet. So you had said, you know, the cars that if you had the disposable income to get and would fix up, that you would drive, or that you would have and use appropriately, parades, whatever.
Yep.
I think my next favorite nerd car, unfortunately, I would not want to do that, just because the DeLorean time machine from Back to the Future.
Oh, yes.
That is a crucial element of those movies. I mean, that is the time machine. That's the vehicle that's used to facilitate the plot. Unfortunately, DeLoreans were pretty horrible cars.
Yeah, they're crappy cars.
I mean,
John DeLorean did not make a good car.
Yeah, that was a beast, and those things had very low lifespans. You see them now, and they're all typical. I mean, I've actually seen one probably like a year ago that was still in decent shape, but I've seen more of them like junked in people's yards, kind of thing. And at the time, you never would have thought DeLorean sitting in somebody's backyard with the windows blown out, and they're just not great. But at the time, Back to the Future, for its purpose, that was the machine. Not only was it this super sexy kind of sports car kind of thing, but it was nerded up the wazoo with all the gadgets on it. You had the blowers on the back that, obviously you need to have extreme acceleration to hit 88 miles per hour at the time.
1.21 gigawatts. Yeah.
Yep. You knew how much, and that was the thing, is you knew these details about the car that were carefully planted throughout the movie and were consistent across. You had your flux capacitor. What was that? Mr. Fusion?
Mr. Fusion, I was about to say, yeah. Just some banana peels now gets you to the future, man. Some coffee grounds, you got it.
Yep, and then we see it evolve through the series to the version that comes from the version that's been modified in the future with the hover conversion, so that it could just kind of lift off and then blast into speed, so that you can time travel. You've got the panel of all the dates, which are the subject of many memes, especially when that date rolls around every year, that somebody modifies it to make you think that that's what it was, which was actually a few years ago, I believe. I don't remember what the original date was.
Yeah, it's November 12th, 1985, so November 12th, 2015.
2015, that's right. That's when it was. I remember seeing that come up like on MySpace and then Facebook and every year, and then finally it's like, oh yeah, this is actually the year. Okay, we're in the future.
Well, and the funny thing is that, like, they said, oh, the Cubs win the World Series, and in the second movie, and like that's supposed to be like November 2015, And then like in 2016, like that, that next year, the Cubs win the World Series. I was like, they were only off by a year. Robert Zemeckis is a prophet.
Well, except he was wrong. So
well, whatever.
That doesn't
Close
count.
enough, man. Close enough. Go
Got
Cubs,
some
go.
Nostradamus stuff here. But so let me ask you this. So without looking, do you remember the license plate?
I think it just says back in time.
Out of time.
Out of time. Close.
Close. But that's like the only license plate besides my own that I'll never forget. There's just so much I love about those movies in general, and the DeLorean is managed in some way throughout all that, even with Back to the Future 3 when they go back into the past, and trying to hide it because it's so out of place that, that has to be a problem to solve. And
right.
So, yeah.
Here's my thing. You brought up all these, all these old DeLoreans that you see now that are all like, windows shattered in and beat up. Do you think that every single person that has bought a DeLorean after those movies had the intention of making it into the time machine from Back to the Future?
No, because I'm sure that there were people that bought it beforehand. It was already a somewhat popular exotic car, and I'm sure that people afterwards just maybe, said, hey, this car was actually even featured in that. And I'm sure there were the pre-hipsters at the time were like, we loved DeLoreans before they were cool in this movie. But I'm sure there were some.
Right. I think if that would be one for me, like if I bought one, like that would be what I would want to do with it.
Well, I think that's the only thing you really could do and actually save face.
Right, yeah, because if you just get it and just drive it around, it's like, meh. But the funny thing was, when that movie was made, it's supposed to be like 1985, but I think the movie was actually made in like 88 or 86 maybe. But it's a 1981 DeLorean DMC-12.
Yes.
So at that point, like the DeLorean company had like gone under. Like I think John DeLorean was like in like prison at that point already.
I didn't know that much about him. Just the car.
I think he defaulted on a whole bunch of like investment money that he took in or something for the company, and anyway, or took off with investors' money or something. I don't know, but.
Well, there's a nice skeleton in the closet of the DeLorean from Back to the Future.
Yeah, but it's one of those things. Like I think the only reason you'd buy that at this point is to make it into that. Otherwise, what do you do with it? Yeah.
I will keep my car. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay, so here's once again another car that I would love to have, and in my opinion, if you buy this car, it's the only thing you're ever going to do with it. And I have seen one. I took a picture next to one in college, like at a movie theater, but like it wasn't being displayed. Like someone had bought this, mocked it up to look just like the original, and then was like at a movie in like Idaho Falls, Idaho. It's the 1969 Dodge Charger, better known as the General Lee from the Dukes of Hazzard. It's that burnt orange color. It's got the 01 on the side panel. It's got the stars and bars, the rebel flag on the top. And you got to go with that horn. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Yeehaw! That's the only thing you could do with the 69 Dodge Charger. Yeah. For me, I watched that show as a kid, and I remember really liking it, but it was less for me when I watched that show. It was less for me about like Bo and Luke Duke, but it was I wanted to see the car.
The car stunts.
Yeah, I wanted to see the stunts. I wanted to see them jump over police cars. I wanted to see them kind of, off-road rallying through the backwoods as they're moonshining, which I had no clue that's what was going on as a kid. And of course, like...
Oh, naive little Spencer.
Right. And of course, like kids that were older than me wanted to see Daisy Duke,
I was an older kid.
Yeah, Catherine Bach back in the day. But for me, it was, it was the car. Like, it was just the car. And I'm not like a super huge car guy, but as a kid, man, like for some reason, it was the horn and it was jumping over and it was like, and it was the narrator. He's like, oh, how them Duke boys gonna get out of this one? And then like it'd stop like end of the car like mid jump, and I'm like, oh crap, what's gonna happen after this commercial break?
Yeah, that show was built around two different things, and that was the characters and the car. And they seemed to have a formula for how much screen time the car had on every episode. I don't know if you had ever seen it, but there was actually a Dukes of Hazzard video game.
No.
And there was some plot stuff where you control the characters and when you drove the car. The character stuff was the dumbest thing in the world. I don't even remember much about it, except that I hated it. But then as soon as you got into that car, most amazing video game ever. And you had to take it on the ramps over the lake, going down those weird little side trails. And that was pretty cool stuff.
The interesting thing about the General Lee is like they went through so many 69 Dodge Chargers.
Yep.
Because they were just wrecking them right and left. And they'd build some of them that were only, so they could film, the inside, like while they're driving, knock the windows out, put them on a lift and, kind of do some of the behind the scenes movie magic that makes it look like they're driving the car.
Right.
But they just they kept just destroying them right and left. So anytime I'd hear people say, "Oh yeah, this is the original one. This is the one that was used on the show." It's like, they destroyed like 70 of those things, right? Like there's no one that was preserved.
Funny thing is when I was a kid at Lagoon, they used to have like a fairground area where they would do demolition derbies. And there was one time that we went. They had the General Lee used in the show, quote, big air quotes,
right.
Just like kind of driving around in the area, spinning around on the edge, drifting. And that was like super cool for the time. And everyone was having a good time with that. And then in come the demolition derby things. Man, that's a thing that's gone
Demo
into the
derbies?
history books. Yeah.
So here's my thing. 69 Dodge Charger, if I bought one, I would have to make it the General Lee. But in today's climate, do you
may want
really
to change the top of the car.
Do you really think you could do that again? I mean,
no.
I think there's so much negative connotation with the rebel flag, the stars and bars that it just.
I wouldn't even want to try.
I think if you were only taking it to car shows or to events, but like I don't think you'd want to drive that thing around as a daily driver, and definitely not in certain parts of the country. Just saying, might not be the best idea.
Yeah, we had a couple people in our barracks when I was in my last unit that had a rebel flag up on the wall, and first sergeant got whiff of that one day, and that was a very interesting day in the barracks because everything in that room ended up in the hallway somehow fitting in a very short period of time. Yeah, it was weird. First sergeant became Tasmanian Devil.
Wow.
Bunny. And that flag was never seen again. Yeah, I wouldn't even want to try that, but yeah, you see that car, you know what it is, and that was definitely a character in that show for sure.
Oh, for sure.
And that brings back some big nostalgia feels because that was that's right. So it was Dukes of Hazzard, which I didn't really associate with nerddom because everybody liked that, but now as far as pop culture reference, definitely see that. But that was also followed by The Great American Hero.
Oh, yeah.
That was an awesome show with a really awkward superhero. I love that stuff. But there was no car there.
Nope. Very, very true.
But what did have a car, I had mentioned before, was Knight Rider.
Oh, Kit?
Kit. Kit was the super cool nerd car that was smarter than everybody around it. And it got away with being a nerd because it was a car. No swirlies for cars.
Right.
So that was a Firebird. That was the cool red Cylon light, which I will always forever identify as the Cylon thing. I don't think that
Ronald
was intentional, but was it?
Yeah, it's the same guy.
Glenn Larson.
Yeah, Glenn Larson. Ronald Moore. I think he was part of Battlestar. Yeah, but Glenn Larson, the creator of Knight Rider, was also the creator of Battlestar Galactica, and he used that exact same flashing Cylon light and Kit light. Like that was intentional because he loved it so much. He thought it was so cool.
Well, I'm the one that's supposed to be bringing information, but you just go right ahead, Spencer.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, that's funny because now I'm like looking at this thing. Allowed Kit to see was a nod to the Cylons. Yep. Okay, whatever.
Yep.
So I thought it was really cool. Didn't know that was an intentional detail. I thought I was the one to discover that. And now I'm bummed out. So I'm done.
Wah, wah,
Good
wah,
night.
wah.
So 1982 Trans Am, voiced by William Daniels. Not quite sure who that is. But we did see, some cool electronics. It had, I guess, like a version of GPS. Had some mapping capabilities. It was super fast with afterburners. Afterburners on a car. That's a great idea.
Right.
The thing would just flip right over. Could project his voice.
Oh, yeah.
So, David Hasselhoff was actually just a dummy. Or at least it seems that way. I was not a fan of Hasselhoff, but I would still tune in and watch that stupid show every single week that it was on because that car was just amazing. So the show itself does evolve, and there have actually been a few iterations since that have not been hugely popular. But if you fast forward to 2008, Kit comes back. There are a couple of different versions of the cars that came out there's like another TV show and then a made-for-TV movie. Kit comes back as a 2008 Ford Shelby GT 500.
Eleanor. Maybe not exactly, but
Sorry?
I think it's the 1960 Ford Shelby GT 500. That's Eleanor from Gone in 60 Seconds.
Oh.
It's a beautiful car.
Beautiful car, yeah. I don't remember Eleanor. But anyway, voiced by no other than Val Kilmer.
Really?
I'm going to have to go back and watch that because I did not realize that when I did watch that at the time. But he has some more up-to-date features. He can actually alter his external appearance, changing the color and license plate, just doing some kind of newer fun stuff. There's a couple other versions of... the new features are really like kind of attack mode, which just increases speed.
Yeah.
But it can self-destruct, so there's that. So now, along with Kit, Kit had some villain counterparts. That was Carr, who was originally voiced by Mr. Optimus Prime himself, Peter Cullen.
Really?
Yeah, and then...
I did not know that.
So it's this evil version of Kit. It's red, however. And then in the newer show, there's a newer version of Carr, which is voiced by Paul Frees. So to me, this is more than just a character that's supporting the plot. This is the plot supporting the character, because without Kit, there is no Knight Rider. It's not even just a sidekick to David Hasselhoff originally. It's David Hasselhoff is really the sidekick who's lending he's the straight man to Kit's awesomeness. But so for me, Kit was the car show, and unfortunately, the cars were not that modified to really make them stand out. You would actually have to see the red Cylon light to know that was Kit. It was actually even less visible on the Mustang. It was kind of under the front plate, so not so cool.
I get that. Okay, so I've got two more that I want to talk about, and I can maybe kind of put them together a little bit. And this is like the Chicago part of me. This is why these really stand out. So being from Chicago, The Blues Brothers is a classic comedy movie, but it's also a classic Chicago movie because it's filmed in Chicago and all around Chicago, and it has everything to do with blues music and whatnot. But Joliet, Jake, and Elwood Blues get a blues mobile in this car. But the thing is that it's initially seen when Elwood picks up Jake from Joliet State Penitentiary, and Jake doesn't like the car, and he's like, this car sucks. He's like, I want the old Bluesmobile back. But of course, Elwood's like, no, this thing's great. It's got cop shocks, cop tires, because he bought an old cop car at an auction. And it's actually a 1974 Dodge Monaco. Now, in and of itself, a 74 Dodge Monaco is probably not going to stand out to many people, but the thing had a life of its own. because they spend a lot of time in the car, driving around, road tripping, trying to bring back the band. So there's a lot of conversation pieces. And then, of course, like they have this great scene where they're getting chased and they drive through this mall and they're just destroying everything in this cop car. And, it's got a lot of oomph underneath the hood. And then, of course, later on, they put this big, huge speaker on it and they're driving around broadcasting this big show that they're putting on to raise money for this orphanage. And then, of course, at the very end, you've got them running Illinois Nazis off the road and being chased by like every freaking cop car and state cop and, highwaymen in probably the entire state of Illinois, all trying to get down to the Mayor Daley J. Plaza, to turn in the money to save the orphanage. And then the thing just like falls apart at the very end. But the Bluesmobile stands out huge in, I think, every Chicagoan's mind because that movie is iconic to us. And that car stands out because of the way it's painted and everything they do. So that's the Chicago connection. I love it. It's not going to be as nerdy as KITT. It's not going to be as cool as the Batmobile. But to a Chicagoan, man, the Bluesmobile just, stands out. The other one I want to get to real quick is the 1961 Ferrari 250 GT Spider. This is used in Ferris Bueller. Yes. Ferris Bueller, you're my hero. That freaking car, like, that was one of the movies that I would watch every time I was sick or pretending to be sick, and I would stay home.
I think it's some sort of penance that you have to.
Yeah, definitely, in Chicago, right? But they take this car. They steal Cameron's dad's car so they can have a great day because Ferris wants to show Cameron a great day. And they drive all over the city, and then it gets taken by the parking attendant dudes, and then they eventually get it back, and then eventually gets destroyed at the end. It's so heartbreaking to watch.
You can't forget the point where they try to roll back the miles.
Oh gosh,
that's important.
We'll just put it in reverse and put it up on a lift. But this car is a classic beauty. I mean, it is a beauty of a car, and you'll see this car at car shows everywhere. But
it's just a Ferrari.
Yeah, but it stood out in that movie though because it was the method of how they got around to do all these cool things and have all these experiences. And
sure, that wouldn't have worked with a Ford Pinto.
No, I mean, who would want to see that? No one. But the thing I like about this one is that it reminds you that yes, this is a sweet car, but it reminds you that there's these moments where you're just hanging out with your friends and your buddies and you're just driving and you're just trying to have a good time. And that's what this car was all about, is like, let's go have a good time. Let's have a great day in a great car.
I see that. To me, that I identify with, because honestly, my car is not about impressing anybody. It's not about getting attention. It's exactly that. It's like, that is my way of having a great day every time I get in the car. I love taking Morgana for drives. She enjoys it. We took the top down this weekend, drove around to have a great day.
Right. Of course, if you want to go with that, you could also say the Mirthmobile from Wayne's World, the 76 AMC Pacer, is the same thing, because it's not a fancy car, but like, it just reminds you of like buddies hanging out, driving around late at night, having adventures.
Hey, my very first car was a Gremlin, so yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
Love that stuff.
Yeah. So anyway, I think you're right, Stu, that while there's lots of cars in like kind of like nerd and pop culture that stand out, some of them maybe a little more nerdy than others. I think there is something to be said that, like, even before being nerdy was cool and being in like comic book movies and cool, like being into cars and being into cool cars, or even like nerdy cars like Ecto-1 and the Batmobile and the DeLorean, like those were cool things that like anyone could kind of feel okay with being into,
right?
Because cars were maybe more socially acceptable than like, hey, we're really into Dungeons and Dragons. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, but sure.
But that doesn't mean though necessarily that like cars aren't a nerdy thing, because people totally can get into cars and geek out over, the latest and greatest, or something old, like, like a 76 Gran Torino. So, just like totally like, that's their world, and they just geek and nerd out over that.
For sure. Nope, I definitely appreciate cars. And then, after all of this, then we finally somewhere in my childhood, we actually see the cars become the characters themselves, and we end up with GoBots and Transformers.
Right.
Because that's an evolution of the concept that vehicles do have character. So we actually make them characters and we give them personalities and do other different things, which is a different discussion. But it's an evolution of how that character develops in our culture and our pop culture references. So cars, vehicles will always have a place. Ghost Rider was one that I was thinking about bringing up as well, and it just kind of came to me. But there's something about it that fits in, and someone who's a writer creating some kind of content definitely has an opportunity to extend the personality of the character, or even add another character to embellish that story or whatever it is through a car, and make it stand out and make it be something that kind of screams out. And I know we're trying to wrap this up, but I mean, the motorcycle from Incredibles 2.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a very unique take on a vehicle that can split apart, is definitely related to the character, wouldn't work with anybody else to be able to do all the things that it could do, but we see it everywhere. It just, sometimes it stands out a little bit more than others, and sometimes you end up hearing the Ecto-1 in your nightmares now, and I'm pretty sure that's going to happen tonight. So thank you.
You're welcome. Just like the last second this came to me. What about the old Herbie the Love Bug, movies, like the old Disney movies? Like,
I saw a mini yesterday that was actually had the stripes of Herbie with the number on the side. Obviously, it's a mini and not a Volkswagen, but
right. But like, that movie was like made, like those movies were made back like in the 60s, 70s, and those were like all about like the character of the car having like a life of its own, right?
And the original owner of Herbie lived, I'm not sure if still lives, but lived up in Logan. And so you could actually see Herbie every now and then.
Driving around?
Yep, and a lot of the scenes were shot on Utah highways, so.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I really like this idea, this discussion about, cars being characters in movies and TV shows and having personality of their own, and then kind of talking about some of the ones that really have stood out to us or that we really loved for various reasons. But Super Friends, we want to hear from you. We want to know, what's your favorite, like, nerdy car? What's your favorite car from kind of, pop culture, movies, TV? And let us know this next week, because, we've talked about a lot, but there's definitely a lot of cars that we probably have left out or not talked about. So we want to hear from you. What's your favorite? Let us know on email, fordofnerd@gmail.com, on Facebook, facebook.com/fordofnerd, Twitter @fordofnerd, or the voicemail 801-477-7687.
Oh, yeah.
We will listen to those, read those next week. Anyway, Stu, thanks again. This has been a lot of fun. I've had so much fun talking about this tonight with you.
Definitely, man. I like to explore this kind of stuff for sure.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Well, Super Friends, from all of us here at the Fortress of Nerditude to all of you out there, wherever you may be, may the Force be with you.
Always.